Feel pumped.
You're flapping your wings like a crow from the Snow White and the Huntsman's VFX batch. Hi everybody. We are, whether you like it or not, we're continuing Summer of Stew, Snow White and the Huntsman week.
There she
Oh,
is.
hi. Hi, K Stew.
She's with us.
Oh, she's always with us.
She is.
Um, so this movie came out in 2012, a different time. It was kind of fun to watch it this time because I remember in 2012 when this came out, I was just like, I am so done with this chosen one bullshit. And it was like from The Matrix to Harry Potter to Lord of the Rings to even as recently of like Alice in Wonderland, where it's just like, since when are there battles at the end of Alice in Wonderland? And Snow White and the Huntsman is kind of like that. And I remember seeing this movie opening night and just not having really much patience for it. But watching it this time, I still didn't have much patience for it. But by the end of the movie, it kind of won me over here and there. Doing, as Rob, you mentioned, Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings on Snow White is so odd. And I don't think it made sense at the time. And it really doesn't make sense now. But
I like it more than you do. um,
yeah.
we were talking about it. The movie does have a Game of Thrones problem, which is this is
Mm,
the year after the first season of Game of Thrones. I don't know where it would have fallen in the development cycle, but I like this. I think I like this not a lot more than you did, but I think I liked it
mm,
more than you did. I think that when we have, for example, this summer we've been having the Top Gun Maverick conversation, which is it's a competent movie,
mhm.
and that gets it a lot of points because it's a competent movie. Like there, it's severe. It's got that sort of overall severity thing, but like I liked, at just the right time, the dwarves show up, and you've got Ian McShane and Nick Frost and those guys to come in and kind of add a little levity. I don't know that Kristen Stewart has enough to do in this, but because it is kind of it's a lot of Hemsworth, but I did like their dynamic for the most part. I don't know. I thought it was. I didn't mind this one. I thought it was okay. I'd never seen it before. This is my first time seeing it.
I was a champion of this movie back in 2012.
Yeah.
Um, and I think because I went into it with very low expectations, because I just didn't know where it fit in, and Kristen Stewart was still sort of in her twilight phase, and she's trying to kind of find her way through a blockbuster, and she doesn't totally work. She's fine in the movie, but like
Yeah.
she kind of gets swallowed up by it because, as you
Not
point
her
out, she
fault.
doesn't have enough to do.
Yeah.
But I thought it was so beautifully shot, and I liked all the effects, and I loved how it leaned so sincerely into the fantasy aspects in a
Mhm.
way that I hadn't seen since like 80s movies.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Legend, which is a movie I really like, but watching it today, I was like, oh, this movie's too long and a little bit boring at times,
Yeah.
and
A
I
little
wish
bit.
it wasn't.
I think that's kind of what won me over a little bit, as because I was really struggling for like the first hour. And then around the time she's with the dwarfs and stuff like that kind of gave it a little bit of energy. But I kept thinking um they made a mistake, at least in my eyes, at the beginning of not giving the world that we're fighting for enough breathing room, because there's certain movies like The Lord of the Rings or Willow where it's like you see this community and you kind of understand like what's at stake and like why the evil queen like messing things up is so horrible, and I felt like we didn't really get that. And then also if you maybe do like a counterpoint with like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, or something like that, where it kind of throws you into like this energy with the hero, like with Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman at the beginning. And I wanted that a little bit more with Kristen Stewart at the beginning because we get so much front loaded with Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
And I felt like Kristen Stewart, as a result of kind of the way that the movie's set up, sort of feels like a supporting player in her own movie. It's so front loaded with Charlize Theron, and I'm a huge fan of her. She's one of my favorite actors. But when she does a movie, I'm getting a real Cypher energy from her in this movie, where it's just like she's not here to. She's here to play, but she's not here to play. She's here to like really like scream and take it seriously and stuff. And I think you need a certain amount of like playing this in quotes when you're in a big fantasy movie like this. We need to kind of have some kind of joy of performance. And I feel like she's just kind of dutifully like hitting her beats. And it makes the movie a little bit more of a dour affair than I think it should be.
I would argue I would kind of disagree. I think like I feel like she's rising to where she thinks the movie's going, and the
Okay.
movie doesn't meet her there.
The visual effects are really good in this.
Yeah.
Like, and it was nominated for an Academy Award, and it's nice to see a movie that's so VFX heavy, where the special effects do feel special.
Also because they imagined interesting things before they went and
Yeah.
created them in the computer. They were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like she's reassembled by crows, or when you stab this guy he turns in all these weird shards of glass.
Yeah.
All that stuff is really interesting. So the movie comes up with striking images and then executes them almost as well as I've seen in any movie. I mean, the Adam, you're totally right, the effects are pretty incredible.
Patrick, you're notoriously iffy on Helmsworth doing anything but Thor. What did you think of Helmsworth in retrospect in this one?
He's fine. This is probably one of the movies I like him in most outside of Thor, because he's playing kind of a variation on Thor. He's not quite as like roguish. He would end up being. Have any of you seen the sequel?
No.
He's very like he's a lot lighter in the sequel. The sequel as a whole is a lot lighter. This movie is kind of I
was curious
kind
about
of downbeat.
I can't watch the sequel knowing that it was supposed to be a Frank Darabont movie, and then he left the project, or was asked to leave the project or something like that, and it was too much to bear.
It takes away Kristen Stewart, so there's a reason to not watch it. It does replace her with a Jessica Chastain.
Yeah. So this was directed by Rupert Sanders, and not to waylay our conversation, but his follow-up movie to this was Ghost in the Shell. Not good. His follow-up to that movie is a remake of The Crow, and it's going to be starring Bill Skarsgård. And I was like, I don't want Rupert Sanders making my Crow movie. But then seeing how adept he is at working with crows, maybe he's the right guy for this.
He's a real crow whisperer.
What did we think of the Doors? What do we think of? I love seeing Ian McShane pop up and stuff that he's like well beyond. I love me some Nick Frost. That was fun.
I had the opposite reaction to you, Rob, because every time I saw Bob Hoskins, I wanted to cry.
Because
this was the last movie that he made before he retired and then passed away a couple years later.
Big, though, I don't know.
No, I just was sad.
Yeah, it's an unusual choice to cast, again, in your $140 million summer blockbuster, to cast all the dwarves with like beloved English character actors. I don't know why they didn't go with actual little people, but I like all the actors that they went with, so I'm sort of two minds. It's like, well, you probably should have cast little people, but again, the effect is very impressive, and they seem to be having fun. They're the closest thing to levity this movie has. I appreciate that they like kept the dwarves in the story, because that would have been an easy thing to ditch, because they go with this whole battle scene and she's wearing armor, and it's got that real like, this isn't your parents' Snow White energy, and then it would have been easy to ditch the dwarves to keep that energy. But I'm glad that they keep them in. They go with the whole biting the apple and falling asleep for all of, I don't know, 4 minutes. He wakes her up because he's the other movie star, but I've always kind of liked that he's the one that wakes her up, because I always felt like he's the one who respects her as an equal instead of views her as like property to be married. I have a whole like feminist theory on this movie. I won't go into it now, but because I don't remember all of it, quite honestly.
If there was a time for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you waiting for?
No, it's a secret feminist theory about this movie. But the way that Snow White and the wicked stepmother, evil queen, are sort of mirror opposites of each other, and there's a real sadness, I think, when Snow White actually kills the queen at the end. It's such an interesting choice to play it as sadness and pity. instead of triumph. And I think it's because she understands what it means to have been defined by men her entire life, like literally this male figure who comes out of a mirror and tells her she's the prettiest. And Snow White is the only other person in this world who understands that.
What else we got for this? Anything else big?
The Crow remake.
Cool,
if it's wall-to-wall Sheryl Crow music, then
there you go. That's
it might be a mistake, but you might say it's our favorite mistake.
Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson broke up, and Donald Trump weighed in.
They went their separate ways, and now they're each having like two of the most interesting careers in Hollywood, and they're both really, really great. So obviously that breakup was the best thing to happen to either of them. And Kristen Stewart is gay anyway.
Yeah, so it's all good.
And she should play Erica Draven in the Crow remake. I'm at the point where somebody's just like, Adam, new pop culture, and I'm like, The Crow.
You know, Kristen Stewart got a lot of money for this movie, but it ended up getting caught up in escrow. Anything else on The Crow? Or Snow White?
No, but we do have one more Summer of Stew review coming up, of Personal Shopper, which we got to get in because summer's almost over and it wouldn't make any sense anymore.
Until next time. I was trying to think of a crow pun. I couldn't do it.
It can't rain all the time. It's just like Charlize Theron and Snow White and the Huntsman. She can't rain all the time.
Goodbye, Rob D. Christine Crow.